The following program is paid for by the friends and partners of Joyce Meyer Ministries.
I was sexually, mentally, emotionally, and verbally abused by my father as far back as I can remember until I finally left home at age 18. My father, whom I was supposed to be able to trust, who was supposed to keep me safe, raped me a minimum of 200 times. He would always threaten, like I remember him putting his fist in my face, like every time I would do something he didn't want. That threat was there, you know. He was a controller. Everything had to be his way. He was angry a lot of the time, and we all feared that he was always angry at us. I became ashamed of myself because of what was being done to me, and I grew up very lonely. He took me with him to bars on Saturday night when I got into my teenage years, where he would get very drunk, and then he'd force me to have sex with him in the back seat of the car. A couple times I tried to tell relatives in the family, but they all said they didn't believe me because they didn't want to get involved. So I guess when I finally tried to reach out to enough people, and it became obvious nobody was going to help me, the police weren't going to help me, relatives weren't going to help me, I couldn't talk him out of it. I just finally settled in and thought, I'm going to survive. See, my father didn't just have a problem with me, he had problems with lots of women, and I'm happy to say that God gave me the grace to completely 100% forgive my father. It took some time, but I was able to do it. And I had forgiven him, but I had not totally forgiven him, and I realized that when God asked me several years ago to bring my mom and dad and move them close to our home and take care of them until they died. And I thought, you have got to be kidding. I mean, at first I just rebuked it. I said, there is no way this is God. No loving, good God would ask me to do that. But by then, I had enough experience to know when God is dealing with me, and I also know that God never tells us to do anything if it's not going to work out for our good. Bought him a house, took almost all the money we had saved. 3 years went by, and there didn't seem to be hardly any change in my dad. And by then, he was at the point where he would try to go to church occasionally on holidays with us, but he was still just as mean as a snake. And one Thanksgiving morning, my mother called and said, your dad would like you to come over. He wants to talk to you. She said, I don't know what's wrong with him. He's been crying for about 3 weeks. Dave and I went over, and he looked at me, and he started crying, and he said, I just need to tell you how sorry I am for what I did to you. And he said, I've been wanting to say something for 3 years, but I just wasn't man enough. I didn't have the guts to do it. And my father, by the way, received Christ that day. We baptized him 10 days later. That man was changed. I mean, he actually became a sweet old guy. I could actually kiss him on the cheek and not be afraid. I was born again when I was 9 years old. I prayed for my dad to die. That didn't happen. I prayed for my mother to leave him. That didn't happen. I prayed he'd leave me alone. That didn't happen. Where was God in all this? Why didn't God help me? I was praying. I was asking him. I was this innocent little kid being abused. Well, you know what? I don't have the answers to all that. But I know that God has redeemed me. And he has taken what Satan meant for harm and worked it out for good. And I'm a better person than I would have been had it not happened.